What's up, you guys? Hey, hey, hey. Now when my oldest hears the intro music, he goes to find his AirPods. Your AirPods. Hey, everybody. Hey, 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 you guys. Here I come. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Happy afternoon. Happy New Year. Or good afternoon, I should say. Happy New Year. You know, it's always that debate at the beginning of the year. How long do you say Happy New Year, right? Because I'm pretty certain that most of you guys that are here, I have already said that too. But in case I did not, Happy New Year to you all. So, real quick, some housekeeping before we get into this, and we got a lot to get into. First of all, y'all know that there's going to be a lot of information that's going to be coming up as it relates to JE and all of the allegations and things of that nature. Now, the reason why I'm going to say JE is because we have to be very careful in how we talk about this subject, because the video that I did the other night on Jeff was not monetized. So although I do want to continue to bring you guys the information that I have, I also want to make sure that I'm going to be compensated for my time. So we have to be very careful. And if you notice, that's why I didn't like put his name on the thumbnail and things of that nature. So I'm trying to be very careful and see what happens, because certain things will trigger YouTube before they even know what the video is about. So even though the video wasn't anything salacious, and I was very careful in my language, just the title and because of what he's known for is what really sort of triggered it. So I want to just want to keep it there. Okay. Oh shoot, one thing I wanted to do that I didn't do. Okay, hold on. Give me 2 seconds, y'all. Quick second. Okay. Okay. I don't want to use that one. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to find a website that I want to use. All right. I'm going to use that one. No, shoot. I want to use this one. Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about the delay. So, last piece of housekeeping before we get into this is um you guys, I'm streaming on both channels. I'm streaming on my ReallyBTV channel and I'm streaming on my ReallyB reviews. I have it set to members only on ReallyBTV on the main channel. If you want to chat, you can still chat. You just have to go over to ReallyB reviews, ReallyBTV reviews, and the link is at the top. So if you want to chat, you can still chat. I'm not stopping anybody from joining the conversation, but you have to go over to ReallyB TV reviews. You should have to. So I'm seeing, and I can see both chats, so I can still see whichever channel you're on. I can see your conversation. So let's get into the things. Yeah, I have a lot of notes. Oh my gosh, I have a lot. Look, listen, I have at least 7 or 8 pages. Okay, I have at least 7 or 8 pages of notes. I really do. I have. Look at this. All of this is notes in my Winnie the Pooh notebook. To my Winnie the Pooh notebook. I found this notebook when I was cleaning up the other day. I have so many damn notebooks. So I said one of the things I'm gonna do this year is I'm gonna use up all these, because I like journals and they look pretty, but then I buy them and I don't really use them because they're like, oh, they're so pretty, I don't want to use them. I'm gonna use them this year. I'm gonna write stuff. I'm gonna use it. Okay. So first of all, thank you guys for everybody. Thank you, Amir, for you were a member before, so thank you for rejoining. Hey, everybody that's coming in. Hey, Queen Diva. Everybody that's coming in. I don't want to start calling names because then I'm gonna get caught up. So, first of all, thank you guys for letting me know how to pronounce this woman's name. Is Ghislaine. They said her name a million times in the documentary, and there is actually a second part of this documentary that is on her. And I told you guys I listened to a podcast on Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell is still among us. She was convicted. She's in jail. We'll see if we're interested in doing her. See, your purging got you 5 new journals. See, me too, honey. So we'll see if when we get to the end of this, if y'all are interested in me doing her story. I don't know. So yeah, YouTube be playing. They do that with me and my memberships too. So first of all, okay, so this is a 4-part documentary on Netflix. It is called Filthy Rich. And then there's the Jeffrey one, and then there's the Ghislaine one. So the documentary starts off with his first. So I'm going to have to talk in the order in which I wrote my notes because the documentary goes back and forth. So my notes go back and forth, but I'm going to just talk like we normally do, and I'll just make sure that I covered everything I wanted to say. So the documentary, it starts off explaining like how this whole thing got started, right? And it starts off with the first public victims. These it's a young lady, and she speaks on how she met Jeffrey, and how she met Jeffrey while she was at the Art Institute of New York. She said it was her graduation, like her project, her final project, and they had a art exhibit, and she was selling some of her artwork. She said she had sold one of her pieces to, a buyer, but the head of the let me look at my notes because I don't want to misspeak on these people, chat. Graduation art show. Her name was Maria. She said that Elaine Guggenheim. Now I know y'all know the Guggenheim. I know y'all know that name, the Guggenheim. She was on the board or something like that. And she said that she came up to Maria. Maria says that Elaine came up to her and told her, "You need to thank you." Yeah, I'm trying to get my watch hours. Thank you, Miss Bates. I appreciate it. She said, "You need to sell." This is Jeffrey and Ghislaine, child Maxwell. We're just gonna call her Maxwell. I don't want to keep messing that woman name up. And you're gonna sell her. You're gonna sell them your artwork. And she was like, "But I've already sold it." She said, "No, they're very good friends. They support the school. They're very big donors to the school. You are going to sell them your artwork and you're going to give them a discount." Now, she said she had sold that art piece for $12,000. She said not only did she have to renege on that sale and sell it to Jeffrey, but she had to give him a discount, so she ended up selling it for $6,000. Now, girl, I don't know if you had to give a 50% discount, but okay, she gave a discount. Now, she said that from there, Jeffrey promised her that he would help her get started in her art career. And he offered her an artist in what is it called? An artist in waiting position. Like basically like she was like going to be he was going to pay her to continue to do her artwork. So, and this was in the late 90s. This was in like 1996, I believe. So, she said that he offered her a job. He moved her into a mansion in Ohio. Come to find out, it was the guest house to it was a mansion behind the house of Les Wexler. And we're going to talk about who Les Wexler is in a minute. You guys have brought him up. Les Wexler is the guy that owns Victoria's Secrets and Abercrombie and Finch and The Limited. We're going to find out how they connected in a minute. But she said she lived behind his house. And she basically got paid a whole lot of money. He said, "You were going to be my house manager." So she became the house manager while he was paying her to continue to do her artwork. She said that in this process, she said that him and GM Ghislaine would come to the house and visit. And she said that on one particular visit, I want to be clear. See, y'all, this is what happens when I watch four episodes at one time because dates and stuff start getting a little thrown off for me. So I'm going to apologize. I'm going by my notes, but I'm not going to lie to y'all. It's blending together. In this process, though, she said that they showed up at the house and they violated her. She said that she also had her sister. They came out to LA where she was, with her sister, and they offered her sister. This is before they violated her, I believe. They offered her sister opportunity to go to Spain to study abroad because she said she wanted to be a translator. And so they said, we're going to give them opportunity to go over to Spain and study abroad and give her, this great opportunity. And again, she said, well, look, this is what he's done for me. He's got me living in this mansion. He's paying me to do my artwork. It never occurred to her that it would be something different for her sister, or wouldn't be what she thought it was going to be. So they sent, her sister went to New Mexico to his compound in New Mexico. And under the guise that this was an orientation for all of the students who were participating in this program, because they sold it like it was a program. It wasn't a one-on-one thing. They sold it like it was a program. Her sister was going to be a part of this program where she was going to study in Spain, and she was going to get all of this, experience in translation and stuff like that. So when her sister got to New Mexico, she was the only one there. She was underage because obviously she was still in high school. And she was violated. Listen, for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to get into the details. When I say violated, you just have to take it there. If y'all want to know more details, go watch the documentary. It's on Netflix. I'm not going to go deeper than when I say they were violated. And let me be honest, in some cases, it wasn't full on RAPE. In some cases, the victims said that it was SA. But when I say violated, it just know they were violated. Okay. And she was underage, so it doesn't matter. She wasn't of consent. Whatever it was a violation. So, of course, she said she felt guilty because she didn't find out. Of course, her sister didn't tell her immediately. So her sister was violated before she was, because when she got violated, then she went back to her sister and said, wait a minute. This is what happened to me. What happened to you when you went to New Mexico? And then her sister opened up and told her the story. So I don't want people to think, oh, she set her sister up, even though it's going to be a victim later on that did set her sister up, but we'll get there, child. We'll get there. But she didn't set her sister up. She had not been violated when her sister had this opportunity. Now, her sister did go overseas and get this wonderful education that they promised her. Okay. Now, here is the pattern of Jeffrey Epstein. So these were the first two victims. They did file a police report. They went to the police. Well, it actually went to the FBI because it had crossed state lines, because it had happened. It happened in New York and in New Mexico. They actually went to the FBI. FBI filed it away, didn't do anything with it. Okay. This was the late 1990s. I think she said 1996 is when it started. Artist in waiting. That's what it was. Artist in waiting. So the thing about Jeffrey Epstein is that he starts off, or according to his victims, it starts off with massages. Everything is a massage, right? That's how they were luring the girls. When we get to Florida in a minute, that's how they were luring a lot of these young girls, because they said, hey, it's this rich guy. He'll pay you $200 just to give him a massage. And so for a lot of, we're going to talk about, when we've been talking about grooming these last couple of weeks, we're about to talk about some grooming. Oh, cross-country cruiser. Before we get done, you're going to be mad at everybody. You're going to be mad at the FBI. Child, we're going to be mad at them all. So it was always massage. Well, just give me a massage or a foot rub. So the young lady who was the artist, she said that's how it started with her. That Ghislaine asked about giving a massage. Like, well, can you give him a massage? Can you rub his feet? And she said from there is where it springboards into the next thing. She said that after she was violated, I'm going to be honest with you. I had a little bit of a question about this. I felt I ain't gonna lie to y'all. After I heard this first part, I felt a little weird, and I was like, "Ooh, where we going with this?" But the artist, the woman that's an artist, a lot of her artwork, she deals in nudes. She does a lot of tasteful sexual work, and she said that she would use her younger sisters as her models. So I was confusion because I was like, so she said she would take these pictures and use her younger sisters as her models. And she said that the next day after Jeffrey and Ghislaine left the house, she found out that some of those pictures were missing. So I wrote in my notes, nudity question mark. So I was a little weirded out that she would use her underage sisters as, because then I was like, so did you have child PORN? Like, I was confusion. I ain't gonna lie. And I feel like that might be why the FBI maybe didn't move. Like, I don't know. Because that sounds like you could have been charged with a crime. I was confusion. I'm not gonna lie. But I kept going because I love y'all. I kept going. So she said no one from the FBI ever followed up with her. Nobody from the FBI ever called her. But she said when she called the NYPD, they told her because it had crossed state lines into New Mexico, she had to go to the FBI. And she said she filed a report with the FBI, but the FBI never got back to her. Now, she did file a report with the FBI because we're going to get to that later, but that report does come back up later on. Okay. So Vanity Fair, this is where this all started. Thank you, Just Patches. Baby, listen, it's a long way to go. I'm telling you, we got a long way to go. So Vanity Fair was actually writing an article. They were writing an article on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine and their business, right? It was supposed to be a article about their business, their business situation. But of course, then they got a wind of this story about this artist and her sister, and they were trying to go down that road. So the editor was like, let's go, let's do it. Like, oh my goodness, like we done stumbled into something. Forget about that article about the business. Let's talk about what's going on with these two sisters. But then all of a sudden she said that the editor that's over the whole Vanity Fair magazine was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that story. And then she was pregnant at the time, and she said she was outright threatened. Like Jeffrey Epstein's people straight up called her and was like, yeah, it'll be a really bad thing if something happened to you and your babies. Then she said that her editor that said, let's go with the story. She said that he found a dead kitten on his front step, on his front door, and a bullet. Now, this is what they said had happened back in 1996 down to the Vanity Fair. And she said Vanity Fair then said, yeah, we're not running with this story. Nope, that's a wrap. Next the story. We ain't talking about it. They said they didn't have enough corroborating evidence to move forward with the story. They didn't have enough witnesses to move forward with the story. Now, that's what they had said. So they took the girls out of the story, and that reporter believes that Vanity Fair was paid off. Okay. So that's where that part of the story sort of ends. And then we go back to 1990. Like I said, I tried to keep up the best I could with these years. So now we're going back to 1990, Palm Beach, Florida. Jeffrey Epstein had a mansion down in Palm Beach. Now, for those who know, Palm Beach is old money, or really, 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 if you new money, you got to have a lot of it, right? So it's either old money, or if it's new money, you got to have a lot of it. Very secluded. It's, it's a community within a community kind of situation. And Jeffrey Epstein's house was right next to James Patterson, the writer James Patterson that wrote all of the y'all know the people. Alex, what was his name? The Tyler Perry played him. The Alex and shoot. Not Tyler. Yeah, Tyler Perry and gosh, Morgan Freeman played him. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But James Patterson, y'all know he's a big time writer. he lived next door to James Patterson. And James Patterson actually wrote a book that I want to read his book. His book is called Filthy Rich. Alex Cross, thank you, Budget and Weights. I actually want to go and read it now. I added it to my audio book because now I want to go in here because James Patterson lived right next door. Okay. So what happened was the neighbors started calling the Palm Beach police and complaining. They reported, now this is in 1990. I want y'all to remember we're starting in 1990. The neighbors started calling and saying, listen, we're noticing it's a bunch of girls coming in and out of this man's house. Something's going on here. Too much. Yeah, I know how the neighbors are when you in certain neighborhoods. They was like, what's this? All these people coming in and out. So the police went by. Of course, they did what they did. You know, they knocked on the door. Hey, what's going on here? They said, oh, you know, those are just people, you know, they're people that work for us, you know, just workers, basically. It didn't really go anywhere until a woman called about her stepdaughter being missing. She said that my stepdaughter didn't come home last night. And when she came home, she told me the story of her spending the night at this rich man's house on the island on, you know, Palm Beach. And he gave her $200 for a massage because she said that her and the daughter got into this big argument. They got into this huge fight. And when she asked her, where you get this money from? Y'all know back in the day, parents used to ask questions. Let me tell you something. I know I'm going left. My mama would know if I had on a jacket that she didn't buy when I was in college. I said, I don't even live with you no more. How you know this? How do you know that this don't belong to me? And she was saying, whose jacket is that? So, you know, back in the day when parents used to ask questions and used to be in your business. So she knew that her daughter had come home with some money, a whole lot of money. Because, you know, this is $200 for a high school student and I ain't give it to you. Where you get that money from, ma'am? And so she told her stepmother the story of, you know, she was at this rich guy's house and he paid her $200 to massage her. Now, the stepmama called the police and said, listen, I need to come and file a police report. So her daughter was 14 years old. Well, stepdaughter. I only was saying stepdaughter because they kept saying stepdaughter, but clearly she gave a damn about this girl. 14 years old. Thank you, Jessica, for becoming a member. Thank you. 14 years old. And that is where the investigation started on Jeffrey Epstein in Palm Beach, Florida. So the investigator that was originally over the case quickly realized, wait a minute, this is not an isolated incident. It's something going on. It's something funny going on. Now, the investigator that actually did this investigation, he is no longer with us. Unfortunately, he has passed away. But the chief of police spoke on the investigation. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. At first, I was ready to be mad at this man. His name was Michael. I wrote his name down. Michael somebody, child. I wrote his name down. But I was ready to be mad at Michael. I said, oh, this chief of police, he done covered this up. And he done this and he done that. Baby, Palm Beach was one of the few people that was really trying to get justice for these victims, which people might find surprising. But Palm Beach kept a foot on this man's neck. Now, we're going to talk about it. As he started doing his investigation, more and more victims started coming up, and they had the same story. All of them were telling the same story. They were approached by someone generally at school, maybe not a best friend, but an acquaintance, somebody they knew, somebody they was cool with, that would say, hey, you want to make some easy money? I know a guy, rich dude. He'll pay you $200 to give him a massage. And so they start going through a lot of these victims. I'm not going to get into all of the names. I'm just going to give you some of their ages. The first victim, 14. Another victim, 16. Another victim, 14. And they started talking about the pathology of being a victim. And we talk about grooming. And we talk about how predators can identify. And a lot of these girls came from broken homes. A lot of these girls came from poor neighborhoods, poor environments. And a lot of these girls had already been violated. One girl told the story about how she watched her father and her stepmother unalive her stepbrother right in front of her face. Another girl talked about the fact that she lived a great middle-class life until her mama got addicted to drugs, and then she was sort of kind of out there to fend for herself because her mother was an addict. Another girl talked about her being RAPE'd right before she went into high school and how that sort of, affected her. So a lot of these young ladies had already been victimized. And so a lot of them spoke to the fact that when it happened again, it almost didn't, I don't want to say it didn't affect them, because of course it affected them, but it was like, well, it happened to me before and nobody cared, nobody did anything, so it's happening to me again. At least this time I'm getting something out of it. At least this time I'm making some money, right? I know I'm not saying that makes it okay, you guys. I'm just telling you the path, and I understood what they were saying. We also see that this begins, the investigators started realizing that this was a whole Ponzi scheme. Because what happened was, one of the girls told the story of, and I say girls, young ladies, women, told the story of, and it all started as a massage, right? It was a massage. And one of the young ladies, when he tried to move it from a massage to other things, she told him no. She said, absolutely not. I came here to give you a massage, and I'm not doing it. And he said, okay, that's cool. But do you have any friends that might be interested in making $200? And she says that she lives with a lot of guilt because she did refer, this is the one who watched her father and stepmother unalive her stepbrother. She said, I didn't have any money. I was broke. And he was offering me $200 a pop. And so, yes, she said that she probably referred over 24 girls to him. And I was like, 24 girls at $200 a pop. I mean, for a high school student, $5,000-$6,000, because he might have added a little this, more here, there. $5,000-$6,000 to a high school student who was literally damn near living on the streets in 1992, 91, in that round time. I mean, again, I'm not saying that makes it okay, but we definitely can understand the lore, right? And again, you're preying on people who need it. You're preying on people who not eating, who are sleeping on couches, who are dealing with substance abuse in their family or in foster care or things like that. And all of these young ladies are being recruited where? At school, which means that 90% of them, 99% of them were under 18. Now, it's important for me to say Florida's age of consent is 18. So it doesn't matter if any of these girls willingly, and I put that in air quotes, it doesn't matter if any of these young ladies willingly went down there and were willing participants. Again, I'm putting that in air quotes. They were under the age of consent, which means that they can't give consent, which means that they were violated. Okay? Based on the law, you can't give consent. If you're under 18, you were violated. So the investigators built up enough evidence to be able to get a search warrant. Now, they said they tried their best to be as quiet as possible because, of course, he is rich, he is powerful, and they didn't want him to get wind that they were investigating him. But when they showed up at his house, now, let's be clear, they didn't get a search warrant for his house until 2005. They were doing this investigation. They said they were investigating him for 10 years. Why it took 10 years? Again, you have to go back to the documentary. Well, why it took 10 years? I don't know, but it took them 10 years. They finally got a search warrant in 2005. They went into his house in 2005, and they found like a lot of nude artwork and they found the massage room. They found artwork. They found proof that the young ladies were telling the truth based on the way the girls described things and, you know, all that stuff. They found out that it was true. However, there was really not a lot of evidence. Like, computers were gone. You know, they sold plugs and stuff for computers, but the computers and stuff were gone. And they said clearly he had been tipped off. Clearly he had been tipped off. No computers or video, even though there were video cameras all over the house. They didn't find any evidence of any tapes. So they said he obviously was tipped off. I want to make sure I have all my notes before I flip over. Okay. Now, they did find proof because they started going through his garbage and stuff like that. So, like, for example, they said they found a report card that belonged to one of the victims. Like, they found her report card. So clearly, if somebody in the house found a report card, they know somebody there is in high school. They found something else that belonged to one of the girls that again connected them. No, I'm sorry. The age of consent in Florida is, yeah, okay, I got it. Anyway, okay. So then we sort of flip to Virginia. Virginia Roberts is the juggernaut in this story. Virginia Roberts is the lawsuit that is connecting all of this with the documents for this list that we're waiting to find out. So let me say this. Virginia Roberts was 16 years old. She was working at Mar-a-Lago. You know, does Mar-a-Lago sound familiar to anyone? She was working at Mar-a-Lago and she was trying to become a massage therapist. She was approached by Ghislaine, Maxwell, and said, "Hey, I got a guy who's interested in having a private masseuse. He'll help you get your training. He'll help you get what you need to become a licensed massage therapist. Why don't you come and work for him? He's going to pay you, blah, blah, blah." So she went to go work for J.E. With that being said, Virginia Roberts, her last name is not Roberts anymore. It's she's gotten married, so it's like her, but we're just gonna say Virginia Roberts because she's identified as Roberts for the majority of this. They go back and forth, but we'll say Roberts. Virginia is the young lady that's connected to Prince Andrew. Virginia is the lawsuit that we are waiting for those names to come tumbling out. And so that's why I keep saying, you guys, don't get caught up in a lot of these names that are coming out. They have already gotten the flight manifest. Now they've had to sue and subpoena, but a lot of those names are people that they know were on the plane. Now, Jeffrey Epstein had a Boeing 747. And what I mean, if you don't know what a Boeing 747 is, that is those full, like if you've ever flown somewhere and you've been on a 747, that's a couple of hundred people. Okay, we're not talking about them little private jets we see the celebrities in that might hold 10, 12 people. No. We're talking about a huge jumbo jet that can hold hundreds of people. He owned one of them. So a lot of these names are people who flew on his not his jet, but on his 747 that went to parties, listen, this man had property in New Mexico, Florida, Paris. He had his own island in St. Thomas. He had a $77 million apartment in New York. Like, this man had properties all over. I'm sure he had something in LA, properties all over. So let's not get caught up in every single name that ever was around Jeffrey Epstein. What we want to focus on are the names that come out as related to this lawsuit by Virginia, because she named a lot of people that she either saw for herself that were involved in nefarious acts, or she was involved in with those people. Those are the names we're waiting for. Please don't get caught up on every person that ever flew on that man's plane, because Lord, we be here all day. So She's the one that's connected to Prince Andrew, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. So she comes into the documentary. This is episode 2. So she comes in on episode 2. She said, okay, so they asked her to become his traveling masseuse. She said the first time, what's up, Don? Hey, boo. She said the first time she went to give Jeffrey a massage, it turned into a threesome with her and Ghislaine. Remember what I told you guys before, that a lot of these women had already been violated. A lot of these women were already victims. She is one of them. She had already had a traumatic experience before any of this happened. She said she woke up the next day and her attitude was, I'm just going to pretend like that didn't happen. I'm just going to pretend like that didn't happen. And they basically, from that point forward, she became his personal assistant. Now, she never speaks on whether she helped recruit. And I don't mean she did or she didn't. Thank you, Cup Star. Tracy, let me know who it is. Let me know who it is. Thank you for gifting that membership. Thank you, my love. So I can't say for certain because I didn't read the court document. So I don't know. Hey, Nay. I don't know if she ever. Thank you, Kim. Oh, thank you, Kim, for becoming a member, my love. Thank you so much. So I can't remember. I'm being honest with you guys. I'm not going to sit here and say I can't remember whether she ever spoke to being someone that helped recruit, but she probably did. Let's just call a thing a thing. A lot of these women, I told you, it was a whole pyramid scheme, and a lot of these women recruited, but they were also victims. They were victims as well. So she was a victim. She ended up working for Jeff for years. She worked as his personal assistant, and she traveled with him. She said some of those times she was with him, there was nothing sexual. Nothing occurred, and then other times, it went down. She also spoke about how she was then trafficked out to other men. And again, this is the lawsuit. She said that she was trafficked out to other politicians, other businessmen, other celebrities. Her words, not mine. Chef Don, congrats. Chef Don got it. Congrats, Chef Don. Congrats, my love. Ghislaine. Okay, Ghislaine. All right. Okay. She said that he told her he would never get caught because he owned the Palm Beach Police Department. Now that's what she said he told her. Okay. So then the documentary sort of goes back to talk about who Jeffrey Epstein was and how the hell did we get here, okay? So then it goes back. He was born in New York. In 1969, they said that he was almost like a child prodigy. He skipped a couple of grades in high school. He was very, very intelligent. He went to Copper Union College in New York, but he did not finish. He did not graduate from college. However, even though he didn't graduate from college, he ended up becoming a high school English teacher at Dalton High School, which is a very prestigious high school in New York, or at least it was then. I think it still is. Prestigious high school. In 1976, he got in good with the board of Dalton, and of course, on a school like that, the board members are all businessmen and people who have money and stuff like that. So he got in good with one of the board members and told the board member he wanted to move into Wall Street. He wanted to get into finance. He wanted to, he wanted to leave education and he wanted to get into finance or what have you. So the board member reached out to a man by the name of Ace Greenberg, who worked at Bear Stearns. Now, Bear Stearns was one of them big hedge funds. I think it fell when all the hedge funds fell, but Bear Stearns was, one of them places to work. And basically, they gave him a job. They gave him a job working and doing analyzing. He was an analyst, whatever. Good at his job. They said that he was good as hell. He showed up. He knew what he was doing. And boom, Dalton is still a prestigious school. Yeah, so that's where he worked. He worked at Dalton. They said that he was good at what he did. And then a couple of months after he got on at Bear Stearns, the HR department called Ace Greenberg and said, "Bro, we got a problem." He said, "What's wrong?" He said, they said, Epstein lied on his resume. He lied on his resume. All of his educational experience is fabricated. He didn't even graduate from college. So Greenberg said that he went back to Epstein and was like, "What the hell?" And he said Epstein was a master manipulator. He said that Epstein basically was like, "Yeah, I did. I lied. But I lied because I really wanted the job and I really wanted this opportunity." Like the man said that Epstein totally flipped it. And by the time he got done, he said because he was getting ready to fire him. He said, I was all set to fire this man. He said, and in hindsight, obviously I wish I had, but I let this man, he said the man, he had to get the gab and he flipped it on me. And by the time it was done, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna give you one more chance." Now I said, now that wouldn't have worked for none of us. But he said, "I'm gonna give you another chance." So he ended up working at Bear Stearns. They even made him a partner. They even made this man a partner. Now, that was good money. Now, we're talking about the late 1970s, early 1980s, a partner at Bear Stearns. Bitch, that man was probably sitting on millions already. So when we start talking about how did he make his money, here's the beginning of how he made his money. Now, let me say this. I believe, this is my opinion. This is me speaking, my opinion. None of this was said in the documentary. This was never even alluded to in the documentary. I believe as we continue to go through some of this information about how he got his money, I believe that on top of him being talented in that way, because we know what we know about his sexual proclivities, I think he was the keeper of secrets. And I think that a lot of these rich men paid him for his silence. That's my opinion. And I'm going to explain to y'all why. But I think that this wasn't we want to do this high school teacher a favor and get him a 6-figure job at Bear Stearns. No, ma'am. I think that board member called in a favor at Bear Stearns because Jeffrey Epstein knew some things that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't supposed to know. And I think Jeffrey Epstein made a habit of creating environments for these men to act out their sexual fantasies. That's what I believe. That is what I believe. Because y'all, you mean to tell me that this man didn't even have a college degree and y'all made him a partner at Bear Stearns in the late 1970s, early 1980s? Are you crazy? Like, right. Raven said they started at 6 figures. So 6 figures in 1980 is probably the equivalent of about $300,000 today. So imagine getting a job starting at $300,000 today with no college degree. I think that's what it is. And that's my opinion. Ain't nobody tell me that. That's just what I believe. I believe that's why he kept that job, and that man is still holding on to them secrets. That Ace Greenberg, because of course the man is probably in his 70s, 80s now. He ain't gonna say shit. But that's what I think. We're gonna get to that, Marnie. Ooh, we're gonna get to that one. Don't worry. I got it. It's in my notes. Okay. So then he got fired. You know what he got fired for? He got fired for stealing. He got caught lying on his expense account and overcharging and double charging. So listen, this man lost his job and people do it all the time. I've heard of people doing it all the time. Okay, so we're gonna get back to that in a minute, because then the documentary jumped back to Palm Beach. Again, it goes back and forth, and I gotta follow my notes so that I can keep up with what I wrote, so it'll make sense. But we're gonna get back to that. We're gonna get to Les Wexler in a minute. So hold on, y'all. We're gonna get there. So because we're back down in Palm Beach. Because the brevity of the case, they had so many victims, and they got the search warrant, but they knew they were sort of in over their head. The Palm Beach Police Department, they felt like they were over their head a little bit, so they referred the case to the state attorney. They referred it to the state attorney, and at the time, the state's attorney was a man by the name of Alex. I don't know why I can't find his name now. Y'all know his name. We're going to get to him in a second. We're going to get back to him in a second. Why I can't find Alex Acosta. I don't know why I couldn't find his name. Alex Acosta. Okay. At this point, Jeffrey Epstein was charged. He was charged with all of these different things. Okay. I ain't getting into all, because all the words. I ain't trying to use all the words. But y'all know all the different things he was charged with. He then went and he assembled a dream team. He had Kenneth Starr. Y'all don't remember Kenneth Starr? Kenneth Starr was the head of the probe that the attorney that was the head of the Monica Lewinsky incident, which he referred for Bill Clinton to be impeached. Kenneth Starr, Alan Dershowitz on O.J. Simpson. He defended O.J. Simpson, Mike Tyson, Patty Hearst. You might know that name. And there was a few others, but basically all of these were the top men in their field. These were the top of the top of the top defense attorneys in their field. As a result, the district attorney dropped the case. They dropped the case down to one count of prostitution. They had over 20 underage victims, but they dropped all of his charges down to one count of prostitution. During this time period, reporters were threatened about running the story. The police department was pissed off. Oh, they were angry. They were mad. I told you the chief of police, he spoke on it, and he talked about how mad he was. You did? What is the name of it? Jessica, I want to tell me that the name of it is. Podcast on Patty Hearst. Tell me what it is, please. I want to know. The police chief was so upset that he then he sent all of his evidence to the FBI. And they said that is just not something that they do. That is just not something that they do. He said they know very few people, chief of police, will bypass the district attorney, the state, and go straight to the FBI. But this guy did. He referred everything to the FBI. And that is when the FBI realized, oh, wait a minute. We have this report from 1996 where this lady and her sister said that Jeffrey Epstein did this to her in New York and New Mexico. Alan Dershowitz, I think, is on the list. We're going to get to that in a second, Stacey, because I'm going to tell you, once I go through this, y'all going to be like, yeah. So that's when we first start seeing the civil lawsuits, because the victims were like, you got to be kidding me. One count of prostitution. Okay. So the civil lawsuits started in, let's say, 2008, 2009. And a lot of them still, listen, we'll get to that. But baby, these lawsuits went on for over 10, 15 years. I'm not exaggerating. These lawsuits went on for years and years and years. I want to be clear that everybody that's accused is saying that they ain't do it. Okay. Everybody is saying they innocent. Vanity Fair say they didn't run the story because they didn't have enough evidence, that they were not paid off. Maxwell, we know what she said, child. Everybody involved said they ain't do nothing wrong. I just need to say that for the purposes of this conversation. Everybody say they innocent. Okay. Okay. So Brad Edwards was the attorney for he's one of the attorneys for the survivors. So he was interviewed and he spoke on his experience. He talked about how his family was threatened and how they would have investigators literally parked in front of his house, just sitting there. One of the victims talked about how one of the investigators would literally just park their car in front of her house and turn on their high beams and have their high beams flashing in her house. There was an investigator that worked for Brad, and he spoke, like he showed his evidence. There were pictures of him taking pictures of the investigator, of Jeffrey Epstein's investigator, and the investigator taking pictures of him. They were just taking pictures of each other. Footage, they were following them, all kinds of stuff. A couple of the survivors that were a part of the lawsuit, they had to go into hiding. It was just a mess. It was just a mess. Okay. Then they start talking about GM, Mr. Maxwell. She was at the top of the pyramid scheme, okay? All roads led back to her when it came to recruiting these girls for Epstein. I told you guys before, there was I was listening to a podcast about her. It's called Kidnapping of Patty Hearst. Okay, hold on. Oh, I read Business Wars. Business Wars is a good podcast too, you guys. They talked about Pepsi versus Coke. They talked about Disney, Nike versus Adidas. Those are some good Dodge versus was it Dodge versus, is it Harley Davidson? It was some good. Business Wars is a good documentary. I mean, a good podcast. Hold on, let me screenshot that real quick. Okay, I'm gonna have to listen to that. Especially when you think about the paintings he has about Bush and Clinton. He was a black male king. Yeah, I agree with that, Nay. I agree with that. Okay, so Ghislaine Maxwell, Ghislaine, whatever the girl name is, child. GM. We're just gonna call her GM. She came from money. Her father was a big businessman who got caught up in scandal and he died. Now there's a question about whether he voluntarily died or not, but he died on the boat. And she was still very much she still very much ran in elite circles, but she just did not have the money anymore that she used to have. She still knew the people. She still was very well connected. She was a socialite. She just didn't have the money. And that she met Jeffrey Epstein after her father passed away up in New York. Now, Jeffrey Epstein, okay, now we're going back to we're in 1989 now, okay? Jeffrey Epstein did not have a large footprint in the financial world. So a lot of people are still like, how did he make his money? How did he make his money? There's not a lot of trails to see, oh, well, he started here and he did this and he did that. He just had money, which again, makes me think. Stephen Hoffenberg, which he was the CEO of Towers Financial Corporation, which was a Ponzi scheme. Jeffrey Epstein started working for him after he got fired from Bear Stearns. Oh, God, this camera. Give me a second. After he got fired from Bear Stearns, he started working for Towers Financial Corporation. Now, Stephen Hoffenberg, he's very open. He said, listen, it was a Ponzi scheme. I was the head of the Ponzi scheme. And we knew that Jeffrey Epstein was on that bullshit when we hired him. But we also knew he was good at what he did. And so that's why, that's why we hired him. We knew he was unethical. We knew that he said, but we were running a Ponzi scheme. So we were not in a position to be the ethical or the moral police for anybody. It was like, you're good at what you do. You know how to bring in clients. You're going to keep this Ponzi scheme going. So we brought Jeffrey in. He said that Jeffrey became his partner in crime. He said Jeffrey was again good at what he did. When the Ponzi scheme was unveiled, Stephen said that he never flipped on Jeffrey because Jeffrey basically alluded to him that he was connected in the FBI. And he said, listen, they offered me a pretty good deal. And I didn't want to rock the boat and flip on Jeff and talk about what Jeffrey's part of it and what all he did and didn't do, because the way he made me feel was that that if I flipped on him, the government would take my deal back. And I got a pretty good deal. So he said, I just took it. I just took the deal. I took the time, and Jeffrey basically walked away clean. Again, I say, sir, I just believe that he knew more about you than what the police knew about you. And you was like, I deal with that. I take that one. I take that deal because I don't want that one coming out. Because again, it didn't even make no sense to me when he said it. So because he alluded to the fact that he was connected to the FBI, you were afraid that they would take your deal away if you told them that Jeffrey was involved, when he clearly was involved. If he was your right-hand man and he was the head, I think he was the head of one of the divisions, his name had to be all up and through the paperwork. Like they probably just needed you to testify and corroborate since you were at the top of the barrel. But that's why you ain't flipped. I said, Keeper of the secrets. Keeper of the secrets. Now, he said that during this time, Jeffrey also has started working with Les Wexler. He said that the timeline overlapped. He started working for Les Wexler a few years before the Ponzi scheme collapsed. He started working for him in 1986. And he said that after he went to jail, after the Ponzi scheme collapsed, Les Wexler invested millions and millions of dollars into Epstein. Now, what he invested them in, I don't know. He never says. He didn't say he started a business. He didn't say. He just said invested millions of dollars. Again, keeper of the news. Of the secrets. At one point in time, Epstein was Les Wexler's power of attorney. And as power of attorney, he bought and sold multiple stock on his behalf, like, multiple hundreds of thousands of stock on his behalf. Some even referred to Jeffrey as Wexler's boyfriend. As his boyfriend. That's what they said. That's what he said. Stephen Hoffenberg, that's what he said. So that's what the people called. They called J.E. Les Wexler's boyfriend. That's what they said. They had this relationship from 1991 to 2006. In 2007, Les Wexler cut ties from Jeffrey Epstein, said he stole $46 million from him, but he never pressed charges. I'm going to say that again. In 2007, Les Wexler said that Epstein stole $46 million from him, but he never pressed charges. So we found out about another victim in California in 1997. They talked about how Epstein used his connections to Wexler to lure in victims. So it was a young lady who told her story about he met her and he told her he could get her into Victoria's Secrets, get her to be a Victoria's Secrets model. Remember, in the late 1990s, Victoria's Secrets was the top of the line. Y'all know everybody and their cousin was trying to be a what they call them, the angels, the wings, the angel wings, the Victoria's Secret angel's child. She said that she was violated by Jeffrey and she filed a police report, which of course went nowhere. She said she never heard from them. She said she filed a report. Nobody ever followed up with her. Nobody ever did nothing. The investigator for the attorney, he found over 50 girls that were willing to give their statement. He forwarded those names to the FBI. Remember, at this point, the Florida Attorney General, aka Alex Acosta, it was up to him whether to move forward with these charges at this time. Now, remember, at this point, this investigation has been going on for multiple years. They have literally over 50 victims, most of which were underage when the violation took place. There is all of them are giving testimony. There's some evidence, but at that point, the police chief of the Palm Beach police chief said it was at that point when the FBI stopped communicating with them, kept them out the loop, didn't tell them nothing. They didn't know what was going on with the investigation, didn't talk to them, didn't tell them nothing. One of the FBI agents, a woman by the name of Nesby, she let the police chief know it ain't what you think is going on down here. Like it ain't what you think. It ain't even how you think it's going down. It ain't even how you think it's going down. Stacey Renee, if you have an iPhone, you would have to go to a laptop, a desktop, and go to my channel on a desktop and click the link. If you have an Android, the link is in the description box, or one of my mods, if you could drop the link for me, please. But if you want to chat, you don't have to join the membership if you want to chat. Oh, you already in the membership. I mean, you already chatting. I'm reading it. Okay. So all of a sudden, one day, the police weren't notified. The attorneys for the victims were not notified. All of a sudden, the media shows up at the courthouse. Jeffrey shows up with his attorneys, and they are pushed through security to get up to the courtroom to find out that a deal has been struck. Jeffrey agrees to plead guilty to that one count of prostitution. He is sentenced to 18 months in prison. And of course, he has to pay some fines, which, you know, that ain't shit. He bloop. And what the attorney explained was, what the attorney explained was, by that being done that way, what it did was it turned the victims into it turned them into prostitutes, basically. They went from being victims to, they were just prostitutes. He was soliciting prostitution. These weren't young girls who had been tricked and manipulated and violated. Now they were sex workers, because he pled guilty to prostitution, not trafficking, not this, not that, right? And so, of course, that pissed everybody off, because they were like, first of all, the victims didn't even get a chance to become a part of the conversation. They were not interviewed. They were not spoken to. They were not given an opportunity to tell their story. The attorneys were not notified. Hell, the police weren't even notified. This was done in a back room, and this is the deal that was struck. Michael Ryder, who was the police chief, said he felt like he let the victims down. So let me explain to y'all what was. Now, this is the agreement that was negotiated between Alex Acosta's office and Alan Dershowitz and the rest of the attorneys for JE. He was given immunity for any other state. He was given immunity for any other state for any future crimes, as well as all of his co-conspirators, named and unnamed. So he got immunity for himself, for GM, and any of his other co-conspirators. That is what was in this agreement. They also found out in the agreement that a lot of the negotiations took place off the record, in hotel rooms, in people's private emails instead of professional emails. And then come to find out that Epstein did an interview where he said he was upset because he thought he could have gotten a better deal. So the attorneys for the victims said that this was a violation of the Crime Victims Act, and they found a lawsuit saying that the victims' rights have been violated through this process and that the victims were entitled to be heard. We almost done, y'all. I told y'all we had a lot. We almost done. We got 1, 2. We have 2 more pages of notes left, front and back, but we almost done. Okay. This was clearly a conspiracy between the government and the lawyers for Epstein. Okay. So now we stop there and we get into, now we're getting into the things that went down at the private island. So I'm going to give you some of this information. So they speak to one of the victims and she talks about being invited. Again, Epstein, she was an artist. She was a fashion designer or an aspiring fashion designer. Epstein said he would help her get into the Fashion Institute. Is a Fashion Technology Institute. You know, the big school up in New York that everybody goes to that wants to get into fashion design. He would help her get into there. And then she was invited to the private island on the private plane. And she said, look, I never had nothing like that before. She said, I'd never been invited to a Caribbean island, much less, on a private plane. She said, so yeah, I was with it. Yeah, I was with it. So she got on the plane. She said, I knew I was in trouble when on the flight, because the to the Virgin Islands is right outside of St. Thomas. His island is about 10 minutes from St. Thomas. So, St. James, not St. James. Not St. Thomas, St. James. The locals called it Orgy Island. They talked about how the people in the people at the airport knew what it was. I said, I guess they did. Anyway, she said she knew she was in trouble because on the flight, on the private plane, on the way to the island, Jeffrey Epstein was having sex in front of everybody with some woman on the plane. She said that's when I knew I had made a mistake. But at that point, you flying to a private island. You're on a plane. Where you going? So unfortunately, while she was on the island, she was violated. Then we talked to one of the employees, a man, FIT, thank you. A man by the name of Steve Scully. He worked on the island. He worked with the infrastructure, like the Wi-Fi and that kind of stuff. And he talked about all of the important people that came through the island. And he said, listen, it wasn't just girls there. And he said, I saw Bill Clinton. I saw Prince Andrew. I saw this person. I saw that person on the island. He said, I'm not saying that he said, I ain't saying I saw them do anything. I didn't see them in any sort of compromising position, but I did see them on the island. He spoke about how he saw women in various forms of dress. No, let me rewind that. He said he didn't see Bill Clinton do anything. He gonna tell the story about Prince Andrew. He said he didn't see Bill Clinton doing anything that he shouldn't have been doing. But he was on the island, even though Bill Clinton swears He was never on that island. Steve Scully said, "You lying, bro. You were there because I saw you. My eyes saw you on the island, so I know you was there." He said, "But I didn't say I saw him doing anything, but he was there." So then, right, we're gonna get to that, Marty. Marty, you jumping ahead of me, girl. You over there Googling, but you right. So he said what made him finally quit was he said he was talking to somebody who knew what it was and asked him, "Why do you work here? Like, why do you work for him?" And he said, "I mean, the money, like, he pays good. It's good money, you know." He said, "Do you have any children?" And Steve was like, "Yeah, I have 2 daughters." The person said, "How old are your daughters?" And he said, I think he said 15 and 13. He said, "Would you let your daughters come to this island?" And Steve said he had to think about it and was like, "No, I wouldn't let my daughters come to this island." He said he quit the next day. Now that's his story. I ain't saying it's true or false. I'm just saying that's his story. So Epstein served 16 months out of his 18-month sentence at the county jail. Well, let me tell y'all how it went down. He had his own private wing. The door was never locked. He had a private TV room. His attorney could come and go whenever they wanted. Whenever he wanted to talk to his attorney, they could come at any time. And then he immediately was put on work release. Meaning he would leave the jail every day. He would be back by 6, but he was allowed to leave 6 days out of the 7 days, where he would go to his offices and work. When they say that, they still was bringing girls there. I'm sorry, he served 13 out of the 18 months. My bad, 13 out of the 18 months. Then when he got out at the 13th month, he was on house arrest, but the private investigator that was working for the attorney for the survivors, he provided proof to the FBI and to Palm Beach that he was violating the house arrest. They said he literally had pictures of Jeffrey Epstein going in and out of different places, hotels and businesses. They have flight manifests where he went to his private island, where he went to New York. Like he said that man violated his house arrest damn near every day that he was on house arrest. Nobody did nothing. No, he said the investigator said, "I provided the proof. I sent the proof. Look, this is a picture of him getting out of his car in front of this hotel. This is a picture of him getting on his private jet." Like, of course, Harvey Weinstein name came up. Allegedly, there was a situation with one of the victims where Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein and her sister. Then after his probation was over, child, they said he had a big old, not in the documentary, correct? Not in the documentary. Then he had a big old celebrity party in New York once his probation was over. And of course, the who's who of everybody was there. The who's who was there. They said after this happened, he became a philanthropist where he started giving away a lot of money, which basically brought his way back into the circles that has sort of, kind of shunned away from him a little bit. They said he gave away over $40 million and brought his way back into certain social circles. Okay. Then we get Virginia Roberts. Now, Virginia Roberts, again, is the lawsuit that's connected to this list that we're all waiting for. Virginia Roberts is the one that was working for Mar-a-Lago when she was 17 years old. She was approached by J.M. and said, "Hey, you want to be, we'll get you your license as a masseuse." She said that's when she was lured into a threesome. And she stayed on. She said she had been a victim of abuse before, and she stayed, right? We're not judging, we're just telling the story. She stayed. So she said that a few years passed. She said she did some great things. She was able to work on some great things, but of course the abuse did continue. She talked about working with Bill Clinton and Chris Tucker and Kevin Spacey on his HIV initiative and going to South Africa. She said nothing nefarious happened with any of those people. Nothing sexual happened with any of those people. However, the abuse did continue with Epstein and GM. She said one day Maxwell came to her and said, "Hey girl, we need to talk to you." And she said, she was like, "What's up?" She said, "What's going on?" And GM said to her, "Look, me and Jeff want to have a baby. We want you to carry the baby. And once you deliver the baby, we want you to sign over your parental rights. It's going to be our child. We just need you to carry it." She said that is when she knew she said that was the last straw for her. She knew she had to get away. So she told GM, she said, "Listen, you guys promised me my certificate. You guys promised me that y'all would make sure that I became a licensed massage therapist. So before I agree to carry your baby, I want my certificate." So she said that JE gave her a plane ticket to Thailand so she could go over there and learn how to do, the authentic Thai massages. And she said while she was in Thailand, that's when she made her escape. She fell in love with some dude. They got married, and she now lives in Australia. And she said that's how she finally got away, is that, her husband got her out of there and they went to Australia. And she said that for her, having her baby is what made her say, I have to speak up. I have to say something. And that is when she initiated her lawsuit. Now, she tells the story about Prince Andrew. She said one day they were in London hanging out. She met the prince. She was like, "Oh my gosh, oh my goodness, that is Prince Andrew." She said, they went to the club and they were dancing. And she said when they went back to GM's apartment that night, she said it was one of them little Kodak, portable Kodak cameras. And she asked to take a picture with the prince. She said, "Oh my goodness, you got to take a picture of me with the prince." She said she wasn't thinking about it being anything more, but just, "You got to take a picture of me with the prince." She said they took the picture. And she said right after that picture is when he violated her, the prince. When that picture is the picture that she used as part of her evidence. Of course, Prince Andrew denied everything. The Queen, the Buckingham Palace denied everything when her lawsuit came out. But Steve Scully, the guy from the island, he said that when he saw her picture, he remembered Prince Andrew on the island dancing with old girl. On her down by the pool, and the girl was topless. So he said, "Now I can't say that she did anything against her will, but I can say that I saw them in a compromising position down to the private island," which Andrew claims he was never at as well. So again, I keep telling you guys this is what brings us to this list that we're waiting for. Now, what the funniest part, because there's nothing funny about this documentary, baby, but the funniest part of this documentary was Alan Dershowitz, who is or was the attorney for JE, because she also says that Alan Dershowitz is one of the people that she was trafficked to, right? She said that she slept with one of his with him, right? She said that's one of the people that JE made her sleep with, Alan Dershowitz. Baby, Alan Dershowitz said, again, if there was any part that was funny, it was this part. None of this documentary was funny, but baby, this part was hilarious because I laughed out loud. He said, "I have never slept with that woman. And he's doing just like this with his finger. He said, "She's never looked me in my face, and she's never accused me. She put it on paper, but she's never said it to my face. He said, I was never ever with her. He said, even when I was underage, I was never with an underage woman. I have never been with a woman that was underage, and I've never been with her. He said, and I challenge her. I challenge her to look you guys dead in your face and say that Alan Dershowitz violated her. I challenge her to say that because she's never been able to say it verbally. She only put it on paper because she knows it's a lie. I challenge her to tell you guys that I ever did it, right? This is just how he said it. He's pointing at the camera. He mad as hell, right? Why in the very next clip, Virginia Roberts is looking at the camera and said, I slept with Alan Dershowitz. It's not funny because the subject is not funny. But baby, he went off on this whole tangent about how she won't look him dead in his face and how she won't call his name. And he said, I challenge her to tell y'all, baby, in the very next clip, she's looking dead at that camera, said, I was trafficked to Alan Dershowitz. She went through the whole thing. I said, well, sir, you probably shouldn't have done that. Because let's be clear, even if she lying, she gonna say it. She put it in, they showed the court document where she literally put it in a court document. She literally put it in a court. You think she won't say it verbally? She sued you, sir. Now he sued her back. Now they sued each other because he sued her for defamation and she sued him for violating her, you know. So they sued each other, child. So this is where the documentary gets into the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement absolutely positively encouraged a lot of these victims to come forward. We remember the whole Me Too movement, hashtag Me Too. We know Harvey Weinstein went down, which of course was a trigger for some of these women because Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein allegedly ran together and did things together with some of these victims. And so it absolutely triggered. We see during this time period, Alex Acosta becomes the labor secretary under Donald Trump. In 2018, the Miami Herald wrote an expose on Alex Acosta's handling of Jeffrey Epstein and that whole plea agreement that was made. And he was questioned during his confirmation hearings. But y'all remember how things was going down in the Trump days, baby. All them people was being approved no matter what they had in their past. So they showed all of that. Then a judge ruled. The civil case had been going on. Remember, I told you that those attorneys were suing, saying that the victims were violated under the Victims' Rights Act. Well, then a judge ruled on the down in Miami. A judge ruled that yes, Alan Acosta did violate, and the FBI, I guess, did violate the victims' rights, and that they have a right to a new hearing. She said, the judge said that the federal government failed to protect the victims and were even misled by was misled by Alan Acosta and the government. Then there was the Department of Justice probe into Alex Acosta, this plea agreement, and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, while all of this was going on, New York was now building a case against Epstein. And he was finally arrested for trafficking. Now, the reality is Jeff didn't know that he was under investigation, because if he knew he was under investigation, they said he'd have never came back into the United States because he wasn't even in the country. But as soon as his plane landed, baby, he got arrested at the airport. And they said they know that he would have never, came back if they knew. They did a search warrant on his $77 million home in New York City, and they found thousands of nude pictures, and a lot of which were of underage girls. They found multiple passports with false names. They found diamonds and, of course, money. So that is why when he went to court, he was held without bond, because the prosecution was able to show that he was a legit flight risk. So he was held without bond. And again, more and more victims are now coming out. More and more victims are now speaking out. Alex Acosta, first he did a press conference defending himself, saying basically, based on the information we had at the time, that's what we did. But then he did have to come out and he had to resign, child. He had to resign. Then we get to his untimely death. Now, there's a lot of controversy over what happened, how it happened. A lot of people don't believe that he unalived himself. A lot of people don't believe. A lot of people believe that, that he he was unalived, fought, that it was a setup, that he was, killed. His brother actually did a private autopsy. His brother, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, did an autopsy because he did not believe that he unalived himself. So he did an autopsy, and the autopsy revealed that it was unlikely that the way in which his neck bone, they got real technical, but they said it was unlikely that the way in which his neck bone was crushed was done by him. They said it's unlikely. They didn't say but beyond a shadow of a doubt, but they said highly, highly unlikely. Now that's what the private autopsy's conclusion was. Now I personally think that it was a hit. I don't think he did it to himself, because I think his level of arrogance, I don't think he believed that the road was over for him. I think with the amount of secrets that he held, I don't think that he thought it was over. I definitely think he thought it was looking bleak, but I don't think he believed that it was over. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. I personally think it was a hit. They said that the guards were asleep, the cameras were down. Child, bye. The guards were asleep and the cameras didn't work. Child. But 3 days before his death, now this is what makes people think that he did unalive him. So, because 3 days before his death, he set up his will, or he changed his will, and he set up his will to say that upon his death, all of his money was to be routed to the Virgin Islands. And y'all know over there in the islands, y'all know how the money system is over there. His estate was valued at $577 million when he died. And because of what he did with the money, the way he willed his money to go over to the Virgin Islands upon his death, it made it harder for the victims to get justice in their civil cases. Not impossible, but it's made it a lot harder. And of course, they talked about, the attorney said this was basically one final FU to his victims, because even in death, he's basically still, I don't want to say screwing them, but even in his death, they're still not able to collect. Now that documentary was made 3 years ago. So I don't know where the progression is now. I don't know if they've been paid now. I don't know where they are now, but that's the progression of it. Y'all. That is the gist of it. So Virginia Roberts is the one that, in her lawsuit, those are the records that are going to be unsealed. Those are the people that she says she was either a part of some nefarious activity, or she saw and witnessed for herself the activities. And that is where those 170 names? That is where those 100. So again, y'all, it's a lot of stuff. We were talking about it today in El Teddy's members only chat. There was a lot of conversation about the different who went where and who did this. Thank you, Stacy Renee, for becoming a member. There was a lot of conversation about left, right, up, down, right, left, right, up, down. However, at the end of the day, we're waiting for that list. We ain't gonna get caught up on who was on his plane, who was at his party. I don't care about none of that. Because hell, that'd be half for everybody. Okay. This man was a very rich man who clearly was a keeper of the secrets. Clearly, when he had a party, people showed up. So I can't say that just because somebody was at their party, that means that something happened. I can't even say that just because they were at the party, they know what was happening. I'm not gonna put that on people because that's way too easy to just be like, yep. But what I am saying is that I'm waiting for the list of the people. Now, we have already identified that one of the people on the list is Bill Clinton. What they say, he's John Doe number 80. What number was he, y'all? He John Doe number 56 or something to that effect. He is on the list. Bill Clinton is on the list. We talked about that the other day. Bill Clinton was on the list. Now, what Tracy also, number 36, thanks, Nay. Now, what Tracy said the other in the group chat, which is a valid point too, is all 180 of those names also were not a part of the nefariousness. Some of them are law enforcement whose names were a part of the investigation. So even once the list comes out, we've got to be clear in what role they played. Y'all understand what I'm saying? We have to be clear in what role they played. So we don't want to be reckless with that either. Got to be clear on what role they played. Okay, you guys. So let me get ready to get out of here. I'm going to eat me some dinner. I haven't eaten yet. If I can, if I'm up to it, we're going to have a regular tribe meeting. If I'm not up to it, Nay, I need to call you. But if we're up to it, we'll have a regular tribe meeting in about an hour. But if not, I will see y'all tomorrow. But, you know, I think because I got a couple other things I do. I'm going to talk about Fucky Daniba. I'm not going to do a separate video on the TD Jakes. We do have an update on the TD Jakes, but I'm not doing a separate video on TD Jakes. Super Scent, child, we got an update to that story. It was a few other things that happened that I wanted to talk about. So we may just have a quick try. I got to do my memberships for the month of January. So we may do just a quick one in about an hour or so, but I'm gonna cook me some dinner first and see how I'm feeling right now. I'm hungry. So I don't know how I'm gonna feel till I eat. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you everybody who became a member. Thank you everybody who subscribed to the ReallyBTV reviews channel. Again, I'm separating my channels and I'm moving my reviews to that channel. So I'm trying to get it monetized. I need watch hours and I need subscribers. So thank you guys so much. Okay. And I will see you guys maybe in about an hour or so. Okay. Talk to y'all later. Peace.